out, I just want to point out two things on the screen. In the lower left is our original logo for pumps and pipes, which is a blood vessel morphing into a oil pipe. On the right is our current logo, which we call Heart of Pipes with a Rocket. And we'll get into that in a little more detail as we move forward. So a comment about Houston Methodist Hospital, as Keith mentioned, U.S. News and World Report does rank all of the hospitals in the United States. Houston Methodist is ranked as the #1 hospital in Texas. The DeBakey Heart and Vascular Center is ranked as number 12 in the United States. And we're pleased that Houston Methodist has been given honor roll status by U.S. News and World Report, which means we are one of the top 20 hospitals in the United States. So innovation in the medical center and at Houston Methodist, we'd like to say we're basically 200 steps away. And what by that, this is our new Walter Tower, which has new operating rooms and cath labs, ICU space. But basically joined at the hip is the Houston Methodist Research Institute. It has the best training facility, we believe, in the world. It takes up one entire floor of the Research Institute. And literally our physicians are 200 steps away from being able to walk between the clinical center and the research lab. And what this means is it really does allow us to move rapidly in innovation because in being in such close proximity to the Research Institute. As Keith mentioned, the Houston Methodist Network is throughout the city, and patients no longer have to drive into the middle of the city and fight the traffic and the parking. They can get basically the same world-class patient care at any of the facilities. And of course, this is true at Houston Methodist Willowbrook and the other hospitals. So I was so pleased to see that we'll be talking about innovation today. And I love what you've done with this logo down here at the bottom. So I think that a couple of times during my presentation today, I'll show some videos because I think that it can convey a lot more information through that medium than what I might have with slides and talking to you. So I'd like to show you our concept of pumps and pipes innovation.
In the early 20th century, when two giants from distinctively separate disciplines collaborated on the development of an extracorporeal circulation device, I doubt they realized how extraordinarily unique their partnership was. At this moment, we are positioned in a fast-paced world where technology is advancing and globalization increasing, where distances get shorter, competition increases, and expectations are more demanding. A time when we need to make the best use of knowledge and look at each challenge from different points of view. A time for transdisciplinary integration of the sciences. A time when convergence innovation is needed most. Innovative leaders are curiously optimistic as they dare to take risks. And when leaders work together, the capacity to innovate increases exponentially. The world's most complex problems require convergence innovation. Through this approach, we have the ability to live longer, foster a better quality of life, and preserve this tiny rock we call Earth. It's why we are here, for the benefit of all.
And so at kind of the three pillars of the Pumps and Pipes program is education, communication, and collaboration. And it really is a continuum of how we approach this and bringing people together to network. Pumps and Pipes was founded 15 years ago, and it was founded by Dr. Alan Lumsden, our chief here at the Heart and Vascular Center, chief of cardiovascular surgery and medical director of the Heart and Vascular Center, along with Bill Klein, who was head of upstream research at ExxonMobil. And their vision, and you'll meet them here in just a few minutes, was the kind of the vision behind this is exploring and building unique innovative opportunities between medicine, energy, and aerospace, which are Houston's largest industries. So this is very important for the Pumps and Pipes program, this concept of exploring your neighbor's toolkit. We want to explore other people's toolkits that we don't always get to examine. But the solution to my problem may very well be in my neighbor's toolkit. And so a lot of times you can kind of think of this as talking across the fence in your backyard to your neighbor and learning new things, learning about what they do and the tools that they use. When we started out at Pumps and Pipes 1 in 2007, our toolkit was rather small. But over the years, it has expanded. And as we brought new partners into the program, expanded within not only the city, but the state of Texas, and now around the world, our toolkit has become progressively larger. So Pumps and Pipes is a society of curious people. We want to come together and share and learn about science discoveries, technology breakthroughs, engineering marvels, artistic creativity, math analytics and models. What's new? What's next? So the Pumps and Pipes Symposium, we've held them in different locations, but kind of the anchor for us has been at the Houston Methodist Research Institute. And this is from one of our symposiums where we brought the lunar rover in from Johnson Space Center in the middle of the night in the pouring rain. And it was a challenge because we had intended to drive that rover off of that flatbed, but it doesn't rain on the moon or on Mars. And this is a battery operated vehicle and the batteries got wet. This gave me one of my first real experiences with what a rocket scientist can do. And so using a sledgehammer, a very large wrench, and removing a stop sign, we were able to get that rover onto our driveway at the Research Institute, but that's a story for another time. So this is the event, Pumps and Pipes 6. And I'd like to kind of take you around the slide here. Let's start in the upper right. This young man was probably the first student to ever attend the Pumps and Pipes Symposium. He came with his grandfather, and we'd invited his grandfather to attend because his grandfather had an implanted left ventricular assist device, which is battery operated. And he basically walked around the audience all day long, and no one really knew that he had this. We introduced him later and talked about the device that he had implanted. It's a continuous flow pump. And so when you felt his pulse, he had no pulse because the pump was taking over all the work of his heart. And it was a continuous flow. But what this taught us is that high school students and even middle school students and college students could really participate and benefit from the Pumps and Pipes meeting. On the upper left, we like to go live to places that people don't always get to visit. And so we went live to the sea floor, the seabed in the Gulf of Mexico, and watched a robotic ROV operate around a wellhead, and watching how those maneuvered and how they were controlled had a lot of parallels to what we do with our medical robotics. In the lower left, you'll see Scott Perezinski on stage. Scott is an astronaut. I don't like to refer to him as former astronauts. I think they're always astronauts. But at this time, Scott is a physician, and he was in charge of the medical program at Palmer Station at the South Pole in Antarctica. You can kind of see Palmer Station here. I don't know if you can see my pointer. But Scott joined us live from the South Pole, which was sort of a challenge. Had to bounce a signal off of a couple of satellites to get him to join us. Dr. Lumsden was on stage, and they had a conversation. Why did we do this? Because we wanted to learn about telemedicine. And this was quite a few years ago. Last year, with what occurred with COVID-19, telemedicine just really rocketed ahead all over the world. But at this time, telemedicine was just kind of getting its feet on the ground. And we wanted to learn about it because at the South Pole, if somebody gets sick, you're just not going to be able to put them on a helicopter or in an ambulance. You have to treat them right there. One of the fun things about this, like I say, he was standing on the roof of Palmer Station, and right on cue, an iceberg floated by. So it's one of those things you really can't script, but it was really kind of exciting to watch. And so in our lower right here are Dr. Lumsden, Dr. Klein, Dr. Kaki Darris from University of Houston, and Mark Davies from Houston Methodist. But we'll meet Drs. Lumsden and Klein in just a minute. So collaboration. One of the themes that has kind of been a recurring theme for us is biofilm infection. In fact, microbial-induced corrosion of oil pipes is the leading cause of oil spills. Basically, this biofilm forms inside the pipeline. The bacteria literally does just eat right through the wall. And so we've talked about ways of mitigating microbial-induced corrosion. It costs the oil and gas industry billions of dollars, and it's difficult to get to and address, but it's a program that, much like radiation is a recurring theme in our programs, but biofilm formation is another one. Of course, biofilm formation and infection inside of medical devices is a problem as well. What you see here is a dialysis catheter. In this case, the dialysis catheter it goes through the skin here and basically is positioned in the heart in the right atrium. If this catheter becomes infected, it is obviously a problem. And so we were collaborating with NASA on a system that they had developed for treating and preventing bacterial and biofilm formation in the water supplies, for instance, on the International Space Station. Our question to them was, could they miniaturize their system enough to be able to be used with our catheters? This has been a project that has been difficult to fund, but it's one that we want to still be able to continue because infection of any medical device is not only life-threatening, but extremely expensive and difficult to treat. Now, this is another example of a collaboration. ExxonMobil came to us and said, could we image an oil pipe for them? And our first question is, well, maybe. Why do you want to do that? Fact of the matter is, they thought they knew what the flow dynamics were inside of an oil pipe, but they really didn't. And so this was a 3D printed oil pipe patient that we put into our 3 Tesla MRI magnet in the outpatient center. And we were able to obtain these flow measurements. And what surprised them was, not only was there a mix of laminar flow, but also highly turbulent. This would simulate where oil is coming into the oil pipe from the rock. And of course, turbulence is an energy killer. So what they did is they actually modified these oil pipes and put a spiral, kind of like rifling, inside the barrel of a rifle inside these pipes to improve the efficiency. They wouldn't have really been able to make that step without this imaging capability. What they did for us is we want to examine heart valves and other cardiovascular devices and technologies. And so we needed a system that could also go into the magnet. We knew how to build kind of the mock loop part of it, but we didn't know how to develop the actuator. ExxonMobil built this system for us. And it has resulted in a number of not only publications, but also grants and contracts, as well as the development of a new heart valve. This system was written up in ExxonMobil's shareholder magazine, The Lamp. And it's probably the largest publication in the world in terms of the number of people that received this publication. So we were really excited when this publication came out. We collaborated with NASA on, could, for instance, a robot called Robonaut be used to do certain procedures. For instance, in this case, we were seeing if Robonaut could actually position a transducer to do carotid scanning. This is Dr. Zsolt Karami, who's head of our program here in the Heart and Vascular Center on transcranial Doppler and carotid imaging. We've held an event at Johnson Space Center. This was held 2013 at the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. And here we were exposed, and on the outer rim here was all the technologies that we were kind of being able to be exposed to that was under development at Johnson Space Center. But the real draw of the program was the big giant pool where they train astronauts to do spacewalks. And so getting back to our our themes of communication, of education, communication, and collaboration. Luca Parmitano, astronaut. On a spacewalk, he almost drowned in space. What occurred was they wear a cooling garment, and a leak occurred in a pump connection to his cooling garment while he was outside the space station. And literally the water from that cooling vest was being pumped into his spacesuit and also surrounding his head. Having him present at the meeting, you could have heard a pin drop as he was describing what he went through that day as he realized that water was filling his helmet. There was a period where the water came ahead, around and covered his eyes. The sun goes down, and so he's basically blind. The water gets in his ears. He's deaf. His communication system went out. So literally he's deaf, dumb, and blind outside in a spacesuit filling with water. But his training kicked in. He also had a partner with him outside. They were, because of his training, he knew how to get back to the airlock and get back inside. It was truly a remarkable day. We live streamed the event, all of our Pumps and Pipes symposiums. And when Luca came on, we noticed that literally the entire country of Italy seemed like they joined our webcast. But what you can see here behind Luca is a spacesuit, because they also came to us, NASA did, and wanted to see if we could image a spacesuit for them, basically non-destructive analysis of the inside of a spacesuit. So here's Dr. Lumsden in our mighty facility imaging the spacesuit. Let me see if I can click on it. And see, what we did was a 3D reconstruction from the X-ray through the helmet, and looking at, this is kind of the padding in the back of the helmet, and then coming around here, this is the area back here where the water came through up from the spacesuit and back around, and this is where it came back. The water first arrived at the back of Luca's head, and then because of the weightless environment, just moved around in front of him as well. Melissa Nolan, professor at Baylor College of Medicine, Department of Pediatrics and Tropical Medicine. She wanted to know, mosquitoes worldwide are an incredible source of disease and death. And what Melissa had done is she had discovered that ExxonMobil had developed software for looking and tracking their oil fields. And she modified that software with the help of ExxonMobil, and then used satellite imaging with NASA to be able to actually identify from space where mosquito habitats were. And so this is a wonderful example of deploying your neighbor's toolkits from space, energy, and medicine to solve a problem. Jill Lundgren, astronaut, at the event that we held at TMCX. Here he is driving one of our surgical robots. And he commented that driving the surgical robot was much like docking a spacecraft. This is Dr. Huey Lin behind him. He's head of our adult congenital heart program. Kate Rubens, she presented at the same meeting. She was the first to actually sequence DNA in microgravity. Kate is currently on the International Space Station, has performed a number of spacewalks, and she and Jill are members of the next group of astronauts that are training to go to the moon. So in fact, Kate may be the first woman to actually step onto the moon. Harrison Schmidt, Apollo 17 lunar module pilot. It was a pleasure to meet him. And he was the only geologist to ever go to the moon. He agreed to give some lectures for us on that, which are on our website. So Pumps and Pipes has become more of a global organization over time. We've had participants and viewership through all 50 states, 88 countries throughout the world. We have international affiliates in worldwide as well: Norway, United Kingdom. We've been to Qatar. Saudi Arabia's approached us. Australia's approached us. So we would like to expand our toolkit on a global basis. And next, I think that I'd like to introduce you to Drs. Lumsden and Klein, because this video really allows them to talk about the vision of Pumps and Pipes.
I've been very excited about Pumps and Pipes because of the opportunity to work with a group of people who do similar but fundamentally different procedures. I like to say I do this as part of my day job. My role is to advance technology for our oil and gas business. And by the way, train researchers so that we can continue that into the future. And a key to that is associating with smart people. The solution to my problems are in someone else's toolkit. The challenge is that all we really get to see is the toolkit of people who think like us. What we really want to do is see the toolkit of people who have completely different concepts and how they're going to address that problem. Technical people are in Houston. They understand that it's not just their company, it's not just their hospital, or it's not just their institution, but the whole community of Houston is where they're conducting their professional careers and their scientific careers. NASA has a certain skill set in engineering that we can solve just about any problem there is, but through partnering, through collaborating with other industries, we can bring to bear our expertise with expertise in other engineering disciplines together we can end up solving problems in a much better, quicker way than we could on our own or others could on their own. Regarding adding NASA to the Pumps and Pipes Symposium and this collaborative effort, I think of NASA almost like the Switzerland of the world. They're regarded as being this preeminent technological institution. And the opportunity for me to come to Houston, where we've had the giants and medical pioneers, the energy capital of the world, and now really to be involved with the people who have affected globally the impressions of the United States and United States technology, is just an enormous opportunity.
So a shout out to Jacobs. Jacobs Technologies has been involved with the Pumps and Pipes program since almost the very beginning. They've been a wonderful partner in so many ways, and they do help us with putting together these videos that I've shown you today. I like to say that Drs. Klein and Lumsden own the car. They just let me drive it from time to time. Truly, it is their vision that launched this program. They are the ones that still constantly are moving us forward, finding new ways that we can become involved across many disciplines, and especially now in the last few years, we've really made a commitment to growing our learning programs. And so at Pumps and Pipe 6, I showed you the young student previously, but this is the next year when you see these young people in white coats. They were from DeBakey High School. So we brought 4 students in that year, and so we wanted to see their interaction with the audience and whether it really was a good mix to move forward. And of course, we discovered it was. So here's Bill Klein educating and teaching the students. Actually, we had a display that year of an oil drilling system. It was quite large. You can see everybody's looking up, but he's teaching the students on how it works and what it does. Another example, this is here in the white coat. This is Dr. Mahesh Ramchandani, one of our cardiac surgeons. And because we did live stream these events, we discovered that during a noon hour, during a lunch break, for basically we had dead air for our broadcast because there was no one on stage giving presentations. And so we would lose part of our audience during the noon hour. So we figured, well, we've got to keep the program going during that period of time. And so we gave Dr. Ramchandani a wireless microphone, and we had a couple of folks here with a wireless camera, and he would basically walk around the event and interview people. He just has a wonderful talent for that. And in this case, it was astronaut Bonnie Dunbar, who he's interviewing. And these are students. This year, we brought in even more students. And these students were from Baylor College of Medicine Academy at Ryan Middle School. So these are actually middle school students. So this is what you'll see at a Pumps and Pipes event is a heart surgeon talking to an astronaut or a rocket scientist. And there could also be an oil and gas engineer here. And right in the middle of the mix are the students. We've also made a commitment to mentorship of teachers. And we've held these events now 3 times. These are events that are done during the summer. We didn't do it last year because of the pandemic, but this goes on for a week. We bring them in on Monday. They meet their mentors. Their mentors are in the oil, aerospace, and medicine. And on the next 2 to 3 days, they actually go out and visit their laboratories and become involved at what's going on at the bench site. And then on the last day, they come back in and they each give a presentation of what they have learned and what they intend to do to try to bring back into the classroom. We would like to do more of these. We'd like to expand these events, but it does require coordination, and our staff is really a volunteer staff to handle these events. But this has been very rewarding. The teachers love it, HISD love it, the other school districts that we work with love it as well. So we like to expand these programs if we can. We've also held STEAM student summits. This is from 2018. And this was actually a parallel program to our symposium that was going on. So we had just a wonderful mix of mentors. For instance, right here, this is Jane Grandi Allen, who's head of the bioengineering department at Rice University, Jack Black from TMCX. We just had a number of just wonderful of mentors that interacted with the students, and we actually had competitions for the students. They actually built things, and there was a competition, but it was a parallel program that was held in our mighty facility. They did interact with the main audience. They had their own viewing screens, and for that reason, we were able to bring in a slightly larger number of students. This is something we would like to continue to expand. Well, here's Dr. Ramchandani again. In this case, what we did was we were approached by, there was a DeBakey High School in Doha, Qatar. And they approached us and wanted to become part of our Pumps and Pipes program. And so we did a live case for them from our operating room. And there was really only two schools that participated that day, was DeBakey High School in Qatar and DeBakey High School here in Houston. There were hundreds of students that watched this live case. Of course, we recorded it, and it's now been watched over 27,000 times on YouTube. But the case that he did was kind of interesting. This is the heart. This tube here goes to the heart-lung machine. This is the aorta, which is the large blood vessel that comes out of the left ventricle, the largest, strongest pumping chamber of the heart. And this is where the aortic valve, the patient's valve, was. And the reason they did this and had to do it on cardiopulmonary bypass, the heart-lung machine, is some patients have heavily calcified valves. These valves are basically like rock on the leaflets. And so that calcium has to be carefully removed. The old valve is cut out. But in previous years, you would have had to sew in a new valve. In this case, the valve, and you can see one leaflet, two leaflet, the third leaflet's back here, is actually mounted in a stent, kind of a frame housing. It's made of a shape memory material called nitinol. And so when it first goes in, it's compressed. And when you kind of add warm saline to it, it just pops open. So the valve can be implanted without the need for sutures. This is a very rapid procedure to put the valve in. The longest part of the procedure is actually removing the calcium from the old valve. We've also gone live to Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, where we talked about the InSight lander. This is Mr. Justin Fuentes, who's the assistant superintendent of school choice at HISD. He joined me that day. And this is Dr. Bruce Bannert at Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He's in charge of the InSight lander program. And what we were able to do is go right into the sandbox that they have at JPL, truly incredible facility, with their mock-up of the InSight lander, where they're able to test out all of the devices in the sandbox before they give the commands to the lander on Mars. So not only did the students and participants in the program that day learn about the spacecraft itself, but also how that mission was flown, how the system landed, As you can see, much like with the current one, Perseverance, which just landed on Mars, it has rockets that instead of the bag deployment, it actually has rockets that help land the device. So this was last year at Pumps and Pipes. We really started focusing a little bit more on clean energy, sustainable energy, the last year, 2 years. And this is Dr. Robert Ains from Lawrence Livermore Lab in California. And he gave just a wonderful talk on the new carbon economy. And throughout his talk, he really did his homework. He dug into what Pumps and Pipes was all about. And many times during his talk, he referred to the Pumps and Pipes program and how it, in this case, this is a quote from him, the perfect analogy for the new carbon economy, new technologies working together. And of course, that's what we try to do. And of course, we like to have a big tent for Pumps and Pipes. We held another event on carbon mitigation by nature with Jim Blackburn from Rice and Dr. Carrie Mesa-Ilo. And they talked about how, for instance, wetlands and the oceans can be involved in carbon mitigation and carbon capture. And you see here, Dr. Klein was in our studios at Houston Methodist and moderated the session. We've had other students that have participated in the event. These two young ladies from Chavez High School, Ashley and Michelle, had actually put together a system on turbines that could be attached to piers and as the tides go in and out, could generate electricity. We've had many challenges for students last year. This was done in February, just before kind of COVID started to hit. We had 4 different schools, a number of teams. In this case, this was our Trebuchet challenge. The teams actually built the Trebuchet. They learned here's Bill Klein again. They learned the physics of how a Trebuchet operates, and they had a competition on which Trebuchet could launch a projectile the furthest. There was many things that they could do to their Trebuchets to actually influence that. It was a wonderful competition. A week later, the students came back and it was a chemical challenge. This was what we call our Chem-E car. And so it works off of a chemical clock. And so the students had to formulate a mixture, do timing of the event of the car, and then there was a course that they ran over, and who finished closest to the finish line was the winner. So these programs that we put together run over a 2-week period of time, and it's a competition, but it's focused on, in these cases, chemistry and physics. But it also stresses team building, problem solving, and working through a challenge and through a problem. So Pumps and Pipes, uniquely Houston, we've talked about that, but now there is an energy corridor that has really been established that runs between the Medical Center, Rice University, and downtown. And right in the middle of that on Wheeler is the new ION. This building was refurbished from the old Sears building, and there are a number of other buildings that also are popping up and will be moved into this year. This is all about innovation and startup companies that will occupy the space. This land is owned by Rice, Rice Foundation, and they sponsored the renovation of this building. So a little bit more about Rice. This can go back to the 1960s. 1962, President Kennedy gave his moon speech at Rice University. And so when you look at Houston and going back to the 60s, this was really a remarkable time. Growth in energy. The Texas Medical Center was really growing. Our programs in cardiac surgery with Dr. DeBakey at Houston Methodist, Dr. Cooley at the Texas Heart Institute, and of course then the space program and Johnson Space Center growing out of this. But what I'd like to do is play my last video and listen to these words of President Kennedy at the very beginning when he talks about Houston, and then at the end when he talks about how innovation can come together.
And this city, and this state, and this region will share greatly in this growth. What was once the furthest outpost on the old frontier of the West will be the furthest outpost on the new frontier of science and space. But this city of Houston, this state of Texas, this country of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested and wished to look behind them. We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won, and they must be won and used for the progress of all people.
And so my apologies, I've run just a couple of minutes long here today, but I do want to thank the Chamber and Houston Methodist Willowbrook for allowing me and through me, my colleagues and co-workers here on the Pumps and Pipes program to give you an overview of what we're doing. We do need your help to participants, as mentors and other support that you can provide. So contact us, go to our website, sign up for our newsletter, and also you can email us at info@pumpsandpipes.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your comments. We'd like to hear your ideas. We need your support. Thank you.